That's cool. And one thing you said, which I believe is really profound, is you spoke about that first year selling where you made $0 in commission.
What propelled me was not actually when I was failing then. That was basically the final straw. Everyone said, hey, God saved you for a reason. You're meant to do big things, right? As you can imagine, you're going through that experience. The reality is you don't even need to be good in tech sales to make six figures. Like, that's the truth. I didn't get into this to make money. I got into this because I love helping people.
Justin J. Johnson. I believe we're live now. And for the record, we're not related, but how are you doing today?
Living the dream one day at a time, my friend. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, same here. I know we're both pretty close to the ocean. You're in Fort Lauderdale, I'm in Hawaii. So I do think sun and salt water tends to bring out the best of most people. But for you, man, like I'm so impressed. Like besides our name being so similar, like I've seen you all over LinkedIn and Twitter. And for anyone who doesn't know you, like let's just say, I don't know, you're meeting my family for the first time. How would you explain what you do in the most simplistic way possible?
I mean, I help tech sales professionals unleash their full potential. I mean, it's really in a nutshell. That's what I do.
I like that. And I mean, you can maybe not be humble when you answer this, but I mean, even looking at your LinkedIn, you've been, I believe, a sales leader close to about 5 times. You might have been awarded like the number one rep at Salesforce. You have like a pretty long list of accolades. Can you just explain your background and experience, which has put you in such a unique position to have all this credibility to build high performers?
Yeah, I mean, I think before I get to the highlights, I think one of the things that helps me become really effective as a coach, trainer, consultant is not the highlights, but it's actually the valleys. Because my first job out of college in sales, I literally made $0 in commission the first year. Like, I was absolutely horrible. And, simply because I just didn't have the right systems, the right frameworks, didn't know how to invest in myself, didn't have the right mindset. And once I made a decision to go all in, that's when everything turned around. Was number one at Salesforce, a few different spots, helped scale a couple companies. One or two of them ended up getting acquired. Was named one of the top CROs in tech. Now, run a pretty fast growing organization, called Software Sales Coach. So, where we have accelerator programs for reps, leaders, and organizations. So, I mean, everything we do is taking the guesswork out of success, both from an individual contributor to leaders, to teams. Because all I want to provide to people is what I wanted when I was in that valley. I wanted someone that was in the trenches with me. They weren't talking at 10,000 feet. They were rolling their sleeves up, getting their hands dirty. They were, not just telling me what good looks like, but showing me. They were holding my feet to the fire as needed. And, they weren't giving me the fluff, like they were shooting me straight. It was no bullshit. And that's what I like to do for reps that I coach, founders that I'm advising, tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, because that's just what I would want. So the results have been pretty strong. I'm happy to chat about that, but it's been a good run. I'm really blessed with adversity, as I like to call it, because that's been a big part of what shaped my perspective and how I've been able to overcome the difficult times and deliver real results. Not just the quick win hacks that help you for a week and then you're screwed come next month. So, yeah.
That's cool. And one thing you said, which I believe is really profound, is you spoke about that first year selling where you made $0 in commission. And it seemed like you had a moment where you're like, wow, like if I want to be successful, I need to be all in. And I got out of this emotional intelligence seminar last year, and it was a ton of founders, CEOs, etc. And one of the questions they posed to us is, what if it actually takes more energy to consistently be in and out of something than all in all the time? And so I'm curious for you, like, what was that aha moment where you're like, wow, like I'm doing this and I suck at it, and like I actually want to get good? Like, did something happen there which really propelled you to take it serious?
What propelled me was not actually when I was failing then. That was basically the final straw. So I almost died twice before the age of 11. And First time was at birth, which I don't really remember, so that didn't have a massive impact on how I view things. But when I was 10 years old, I almost died in a snowmobile accident. And my throat got crushed. My larynx, my esophagus, my trachea, my vocal cords, all of them were destroyed. I had a 1 in 10 chance of living. And, my vocal cords still don't work to this day. 34 surgeries later, basically I went through hell and back. And after going through that, I grew up in construction. I was the youngest of 5 boys, first one from my family to graduate from college. And you pair the background with that experience, I was deemed the golden child of my family. Everyone said, hey, God saved you for a reason. You're meant to do big things, right? As you can imagine, you're going through that experience. And I just remember being in my boss's office, 6 months out of college, staring at a spreadsheet that just got a bunch of red cells in it, that's printed out. And it was my performance review. And I was doing terrible. And he's basically said, things aren't going well, things got to improve or we're going to have some problems. And I remember driving home that day, just feeling so lost and like such a failure, not because of that moment where I was struggling. Of course, that was the catalyst. But when you compound all of those years of adversity and things that I went through to then just be an objective failure, that's tough. And what really made me wake up was really when I asked myself the question of, am I actually giving it my all? And the answer was no. I mean, that's the brutal truth. I was showing up to work every day, just like a lot of people do. But the harsh reality is, in my situation, I was showing up, but I wasn't bringing intensity to it. I wasn't being proactive to try to learn. Now, there was some things missing from my environment that I didn't know at the time because I was fresh out of college. But there's a lot of things that were in my control that I just wasn't doing to make the most of my situation. And that was the thing that hurt the most, because I realized a very harsh truth at a young age that we're all going to die. And most people don't grasp that fact until they are much older in life, when they start to really face their mortality, when their health starts to decline. That's typically when people start to really feel like, oh, wow, I really only have like a short time on this earth. I was blessed with that at a young age. And I just had this moment of like, what the hell are you doing? Right? You know how fragile life is. You know it can end in a minute and you're half-assing it. Like, what is wrong with you? And that was the conversation that I had with myself, where I basically said, all right, I'm done. Like, I'm done half-assing it. I'm done making excuses. I'm done complaining. I'm going to take control, because my company's never going to develop me as fast as I want to get developed. No one's going to care about my success more than me. So I got to do what I got to do. And that's when I took action, changed my environment, changed my situation, and went all in on developing myself. And then the highlight reel came after. But that was a tough day for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. And in a way, like, I read the book recently, like The Gap and the Gain, where it talks about like you have gap thinking or game thinking, and you clearly have game thinking with some of your early life experiences, because without that, it might have not put you in a winning position to have, a rare experience to have 2 mortalities possibly before the age of 11. What I've realized is a few things with humans. Like, humans are typically best learn through experience, and so like you had the luxury of going through experience. And it would be great if people could just like steal your story and like, just take it as motivation. But one thing that I've been experiencing lately is, because people don't think about mortality, they don't operate with urgency. They don't have all these things going on. But I'd be so curious, for someone like yourself, Justin, how do you remind yourself daily? Because even with the surgeries and everything, I'm sure at some point you get into a flow of life where you're like, well, I'm operating like a high performer. Like I might forget about it. Like, how do you remind yourself daily that this time is urgent and like it can literally pass at any moment?
I have a question that I ask myself, and it's very simple. It's like, did I win today? And when I say, did I win today? It's not the scoreboard. It's, did I control what's in my control? Because if you control what you can control, the scoreboard is going to take care of itself. So for me, when I reflect on my days, I just ask myself, like, did I genuinely give it my all today? And because I've asked that question over and over again for literally decades now, it's second nature for me. And anytime I do take my foot off the gas, I immediately feel that reminder like creep into the back of my mind. I'm like, hey, Justin, like, we've been down this road. We don't like where this goes. Be careful. But it just comes down to winning the day, because if you win enough days, you win the week. You win enough weeks, you win months. You win enough months, you win years. You win enough years, you win your life. And my mission for myself and how I approach life is very simple. Whenever it's my time to go, hopefully many moons from now, all I want to do is look back on my life and say, I gave it my all. I just want the gas tank to be empty when it's my time to go. And wherever I land, I land. Accolades, whatever, income, business, all of that. None of that ultimately matters to me. Like, what ultimately matters is that I empty the gas tank. And that's how I know I live life to the fullest. But it comes down to just a daily practice of like, hey, did you go hard today? Did you make the most of it today? Did you control what's in your control? You know, the three principles that I live by, that I use to help remind myself when I look at every day, is execute, evolve, enjoy. Did I control what's in my control? That's execution. Did I try to do something to grow today? Doesn't matter what it is. And did I take a moment to have some appreciation or gratitude, to just have a smile? Right? It doesn't take much. And if I do those things, like those, that's how I'm constantly reminding myself. And I build systems around it. Both that I ask myself, but I'm a big believer in systems. Everything I do is tied to systems. So my pillars and values for my company that I run is execute, evolve, enjoy. So I drill it into my team, so that's reinforcement for me. All of my clients, I have close to 200 people in my sales rep accelerator right now. What we do, we execute, evolve, enjoy, right? Help them understand those principles. So by teaching it to others, well, selfishly, that also helps remind me of those things in many different ways every single day. So it's a constant reinforcement. It's practice, right? You said you went to study people and gone to events around energy, right? And when you think about like gratitude, they always say, like, do you practice gratitude? Because you never master it. It's a practice, right? It's that reinforcement. So that's how I think about it. But more importantly, the systems that I create.
I like that. And there's so many cool reframes that you can give to life in any situation. And one of them is from one of my favorite hybrid athletes I follow. His name is Luke Hopkins. I used to do like Ironman and marathon, so I was obsessed with that for a bit. But he has a saying that I think is like very contrarian to everyday culture, which is like fatigue is the norm. And I think a lot of people don't like that because it's more of a comfort culture we've created.
Yeah.
But I just think what's so unique about what you're doing is, it seems like you've created this container of high performers who can really unleash their earning potential. And funny enough, one of the guys who exposed me to that was a guy with a very similar name to us. His name is Blake Johnson, and he's a seven-figure W-2 earner at Dynatrace. And he was my field rep when I first got into sales at Dell. So he taught me all the tricks in the book. And what's been cool is seeing a guy like him crush it and then also know that there's just services like yours available. And so now that I've, had access and exposure to so many high performers, but you've probably had like 10x more experience and exposure, I'm so curious if you had to simplify down the number one mistake you see software reps make when you first start working with them, what is that? And what is your go-to fix to alleviate that?
The number one mistake I see specifically with software reps is golden handcuffs. Everyone loves to work in tech sales because you can make good money, you can make good money quickly, right? The reality is you don't even need to be good in tech sales to make six figures. Like, that's the truth. Like you genuinely don't even have to be good. You can hop around at a couple companies. You start making 60, 70K, work there for a year, jump to another company, maybe it's a 90, 100K, jump in another year, right? Fire doesn't matter. You make the jump, you jump to 120, all of that. And because they have the golden handcuffs, they're making decent enough money. And because you have because you're making decent enough money, you never feel the pain to invest in yourself. Like that day when I was failing, what I forgot to mention on that day is I was also $100,000 in debt, making 30K a year gross when I was doing that. When I had that tough conversation with me when I was about to get fired, when I was my first job. And when you're making decent enough money, you just wait for the companies to develop you. And they're never going to do it. Like they'll never develop you as fast as you want to get developed, like point blank end of story. But you make decent enough money, so you keep showing up every day. Maybe you work hard, maybe you don't. But even the folks that work hard, they don't take ownership of their development. So that's why I say like golden handcuffs, where some of the most successful sales reps that I know, many of them come from really difficult backgrounds. And it's no secret to why they're successful. It's like, hey, they know what's on the other side of like not doing your best. Where many people, they live an okay life. And like, look, if your goal is to make 100K a year, nothing wrong with that, right? I don't want to frown upon that. But like, the questions around like high performance and being great and really trying to max out this career, you have to go all in on yourself and understand that the company's not going to go all in on you. Because why would they? Because if you unleash your full potential, you're going to outgrow the company. That's just how it works. Right? So it happened to me. I left Salesforce twice when I was number one.
That's a good answer. Yeah, and it's an interesting space to be in, but I was talking to one of my buddies. He's a founder. I believe he just got like 5 million in seed funding. He already had a company he bootstrapped, and this is like a side project he's doing. And he was analyzing my business, and he was giving me brutal advice today. Because we even spoke about it. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm cool with like 5 to 800K a year. And he was kind of pressing me. He's like, honestly, man, like you should be thinking like in the 5 to 10 million range. Like, and I was like, well, why is that? And he's like, well, everything's an opportunity cost. Like if the opportunity cost of working is maybe in relation to how many sunsets you might miss with your wife, well, at least if you're going bigger, the opportunity cost like actually means something over just like doing it for a smaller amount. And I don't think enough people do some of those reframes, which I think is so powerful. But I do think one of the key things that I realized with all the high performers I surround myself with is they just think differently. And for you, I would be so curious, like you see all these guys posting on LinkedIn, you do these podcasts and everything, like what's an unconventional piece of sales advice that you give that you just feel like no one else provides?
Anyone that tells you hustle culture is bad is full of shit. And I say that because you made a statement a few minutes ago around people being comfortable. And don't get me wrong, like there's toxic sales environments, but the pendulum has swung way too hard in the other direction. And the best sales orgs are very difficult environments. And that's intentional because that's how you grow. You don't grow in your comfort zone. Anyone that's worked with me when I was a sales leader, we still talk to this day, close friends, but they know that it's difficult to work for me because my job is to push you. My job is to get you uncomfortable. And the whole concept of, oh, this hustle culture is dead, work-life balance, like it's just bullshit if you're trying to be great. Like, give me a single person in any single field, not just sales, marketing, customer success, customer support, executive, athletes, entrepreneurs, name anybody that is considered one of the best that wasn't extremely out of balance for some point of their life. So if someone wants to be great, like that's just what's required. What I tell all my clients every day is in order to be in the top 1%, you have to be willing to do what 99% aren't. It's just that simple. Is it easy? Hell no. It's really hard. The hard part about discipline is that it's hard. And it never gets easier. Every day you got to show up. But that's what's required if you want to be great. But like I said, it's okay if you're not trying to be in the top 1%. I genuinely have no negative feelings towards someone that's like not trying to be elite, right? But I do have strong feelings to someone who says they want to be elite and their actions don't match their words. When I was a sales leader, I interviewed thousands of reps over the years. I never once in a single interview had someone in that call or meeting say they didn't work hard. Everyone works hard, apparently, but it's not true. Right? Just showing up is that's table stakes. If you want to be great, like you have to bring intensity to it too. So that's why I have a very strong feeling around like if you want to be great, like you genuinely have to like outwork people.
I love
And
that so
the
much.
yeah. And the good news is the pendulum is starting to swing back, I will say.
Yeah, I think I believe it is, and it's cool we get to talk about this because I've noticed it within our offer of elite tech sales. Is like we have this deliverable of like getting people to check out our website, like HubSpot, Google, Shopify, like really good companies for people, sub 5 years into their career who just want to, get with good product market fit and everything. And one of the best things we've done for our program recently is we created a 3 strike policy, meaning of like, if you can't keep up with your calendar, you can't, communicate proactively, like you can't do these simple things of professionalism. It's like, you're not going to do the behaviors of what an elite person would do in that organization. And that's been a big aha moment for me is when I hear you speak these words like top 1%, being the best, working hard, I've really started systematizing that down. It's like, okay, great. Like those are good words because they're ideals, but the problem with ideals, and I'm looking at the ocean as I say this, it always goes further into the distance than ideal. And so you actually have to quantify, well, what am I chasing? And what I've realized is people, when they're chasing an ideal, you can really quantify that down into behaviors. So like, what are the behaviors of an elite person? And so for you teaching this, what are those behaviors that you care so deeply about to make someone's best even better?
What I teach comes down to 3 pillars for an individual. I call them the 3 C's: master your craft, master your conscience, master your career. Okay. Now I want you to think about those as a tripod, because what happens to the tripod? It's got 3 legs, right? Let's say, well, one of the legs falls out. Well, what's going to happen to the tripod? Fall over, right? Well, I think being elite is the same thing, because you can get by just being at a good company with great product market fit. Like, let's say a HubSpot's a great example, great company. I have a bunch of clients that work there, right? But if you don't master the other 2, if you don't master your mindset, right? If you don't master your other skills, like you'll never be great. So number 1 is like knowing how to break it up into those buckets, because I know a lot of people that are really great sellers, but they're in terrible situations with bad companies, and they don't know how to play the crazy game called corporate America that we're all in, right? And games are fun when you know the rules. Games aren't fun when you don't know the rules. So number 1 is bucketing that. Now, when I think about, on a day-to-day basis, it really comes down to those 3 principles that I talk about. Are you controlling what's 100% in control? So are you executing? Are you taking action to improve yourself in some way, shape, or form every day? And are you taking a moment to celebrate your victories? The key on the victories, though, is you have to celebrate the progress, not the dashboard, because everyone assumes that the only way to measure progress is closing the deals, is the commission checks, right? Is getting the president's club. And don't get me wrong, those things matter. But what I train my clients to do is celebrate the action prior to the scoreboard, because the scoreboard's a lagging indicator, right? You don't just get to the top 1%. You implement talk tracks and you do them terribly, right? But then you learn from that implementation by listening to your film review and then doing it again, getting a little bit better. Then you master that skill. Great. Then we move on to the next skill. Try to implement it. Do it terribly, right? Then you can improve your habit over time. So those are the things that you have to train yourself to celebrate every day. And it's hard to do because you're getting the pressure every day. You got to deliver your monthly, quarterly quota. Or there's all this pressure to deliver. But if you could just compartmentalize what you need to do every single day, that's how you just win days, right? Which is to go to your question earlier, like, how do I make sure I stay going every day? Just focus on winning the day. And that's what I teach my clients to do. And it's not always pretty. Most of the time it's not. But when you stack those wins, they compound.
I love that. And it's actually like really simple. And what I've realized is, and maybe this is me coming from living in Austin, Texas for 5 years, is like everyone wants to go to the moon or look at that lagging indicator, but no one just wants to get started. And people always, in my circle, always throw around like words like, well, let's scale, like whether it's to crush our quota, scale our company, like whatever it is. And I made a post about it on LinkedIn today, which I think a lot of people resonate with, but it's like, what does scale actually mean? Because I think scale tactically can upskill any skill set. And it's like the S means just like start, like you said. The C is like compound, do more. The A is augment, then do better. L is like leverage, be consistent. Like maybe at that point, it's like getting more capital structures behind you. And then like E is like ease and expand. But like a lot of people just don't even start with the S, which is pretty bananas. But for you, I think what's cool is you changed a lot of these behaviors at a young age, and then you had the compounding effects of being a top rep at Salesforce twice and leaving, and now, building your own company, which, from everything that we've spoken about, I know you have some very, very large revenue goals that you're really crushing, which is so cool to see. But taking you back to like when you were in the trenches, what would you say was the most memorable deal you ever closed when you were working at Salesforce?
Most memorable deal I ever closed was actually one that I didn't close near as much as I wanted to. I closed literally 10% of what the deal could have been, but I learned a lot through it, the experience. It was a deal where we had Uncle Mark, as we like to call him, CEO of Salesforce, involved in the deal with one of the Fortune 500 account. And I guess I could take this thing 100 different ways. Do you want me to talk to kind of like my takeaways from that deal or my experience? I'm happy to go. What do you think would be most helpful?
I would say the takeaways. I feel like,
Yeah.
especially if you learned a lot in it, like just things people can take from it to apply to their selling.
Yeah, the takeaways, the biggest thing that I took away was it doesn't matter how big the deal is, you still own that account. So imagine this deal. And if you work at a startup, it might be hard to imagine this situation, but if you work at a big company, you'll be able to appreciate this easier. When the CEO of Salesforce gets involved in your deal, on the org chart, I think at the time he was 8 levels in between us in the org chart. Okay? It's a lot of levels. So everyone between me and Mark, everyone's at full attention. And the amount of eyeballs and pressure and scrutiny that was on this deal was insane. Because no one wanted to be the leader that didn't execute at a high level when the CEO of the company was involved. Right? When you're in a massive organization like Salesforce is. And a few months into the deal, what I found myself doing was almost being in the passenger seat a little bit, because there were so many executives of my my RVP, AVP, SVP, senior SVP, EVP, senior EVP, all of them in the deal. What I realized is none of them are going to care about the deal as much as I do, but I deferred to them because of their titles in the org chart versus me being the quarterback. And because of that, the deal was moving a lot slower than it needed to. And I think that's a big reason why we closed only 10% of what we could have. We still closed a good chunk there. But this potentially could have been a life-changing amount. Let's just put it that way, in terms of what I could have made off that deal. But that was it. Like, no matter how many people were in the deal, you own it. Doesn't matter if your CEO is involved. Doesn't matter who it is. Like, it is your account. You are the driver. And once I flipped that switch in the deal, that's when things started to turn, right? So a bunch of micro takeaways, but if there's one that I would say for people that are trying to move up market, trying to sell those bigger deals, it's not if this is going to happen. It's going to happen. When you happen to have the biggest deal within the org, all the eyeballs are on you. You're on 3 different forecast calls a week because you have the biggest deal. And everyone's asking about next steps and what's happening with it, even though nothing's changed in the last 2.5 hours since the last forecast call, right? It gets to be ridiculous and it can overwhelm you. Don't let it. You got this. Every single person in that org chart, just like you, is winging it. Everyone's figuring it out one day at a time. And it doesn't matter if you're, lowly rep like me at the time, or you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. No one's time is more valuable than me. And I'm just as intelligent and capable as everyone else around me.
Yeah, I'm curious what you did tactically to change that because I was actually in a position at Dell when I like just became a field rep and like we do data center storage on premise. And I had this like whale of a deal come in, which I won't, geek out on tech, but it was like a 50 petabyte deal for data center, which is like massive. And it was like my manager got involved, his VP got involved, and like someone else, and all of a sudden we're like taking this CEO and CIO to like Pebble Beach to go golfing. And I had that imposter syndrome of like, well, he's working it, he's taking him golfing, he's whining and dining. Like,
Yeah.
I'm 25 years old in the field, like I have no clue what I'm doing. But I didn't know what to do tactically in that situation. I felt like I was an imposter. Like, what did you do tactically to just build that or establish that credibility and like really take ownership?
Well, let's think about the role of a quarterback on the football field. Well, you're responsible for helping to make sure the offensive line has the right coverage. You're responsible for making sure the tight end is lined up where they need to be and they have the right routes. You're responsible for making sure the running back knows what's going to happen if you need a audible from a pass to a run and where the protection is going to set them up best. You're responsible for making sure that the wide receivers know their responsibilities. You're responsible for reading the defense. You're responsible for all these things. Are you the person that's blocking the defensive line? No. Are you the person that's running the ball? No. Are you the person that's going to catch the ball for your wide receiver? No. That's their responsibility. But your job is to put them in a position to succeed. So your executive that's going to have golf with them at Pebble Beach, let's say CEO to CEO, well, I may not be in the round, but I'm going to make sure you are prepared with the talking points. I'm going to make sure that you know everything that's going on with the deal, the good, the bad, the ugly. What are the red flags? What are the things that you should bring up? What are the topics that you should avoid? What's going on with the company? I'm going to make sure you know the questions asked, what not to ask, and everything in between. All right, that's my job as a quarterback. And I'm going to give that to you before the round of golf. And guess what I'm going to do after the round of golf? I'm going to debrief with you ASAP, right? Little simple tactical things that come down just to your level of preparation yourself, and then making sure everyone else around you is prepared. And then also, by having those debriefs, you're holding them accountable to do that, right? I got to the point when I was running larger deals where I would have my SVP on a call, and I got so comfortable in the right way to run deals. I would say, hey, we have a 60-minute call, and between the 15 to 20-minute mark, this is where we're going to be in the presentation. In the room, there's going to be stakeholder 1, 2, 3. Stakeholder 3, he's a detractor. Make sure when you jump in at that mark, when you're asking a question, I want you to call them by their first name to make sure that they pay attention and try to direct this question to them. Right? To like that level of detail. Is it easy to do that much preparation? No, it takes a lot of time, but it's not complicated. Right? It's just setting the people up to succeed, and that's how you earn the trust and credibility of everyone around you. Right? Because if I look in the CRM, it's not the SVP that owns that account in Salesforce. It's me. So I'm the one that owns that account, so I'm the one that's ultimately responsible for driving this.
And one thing you said that a lot of sales reps mix up with nomenclature, like words they use, is they misinterpret preparation and work, but they actually go together. Like preparation is the work in a lot of ways. It's like, how are you setting your team up? How are you just doing the things to prepare to put your team in a winning position? Like you, with the football example, it's like you work out all week, you do your stretching, you do your game film, like you do everything so you don't look like my Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year and just get beat. But
Hold on, you've had a good run. Like, I'm a Bears fan, okay? So I don't want to hear you complaining about your Super Bowl.
yeah, no, we've been pretty spoiled. Yeah, we actually have been pretty spoiled. But one thing that, and I'll fully admit it, I lucked out. Like I think luck's a combination of circumstances and hard work, but like my backstory, everyone's heard me say this a million times, my friends joke, but it's like I thought I was going to get into medical sales out of college. Like both my parents worked Abbott Diagnostics, Johnson and Johnson. Could not get in to save my life. Had a bachelor of general studies and just found myself in tech sales. And I'll never forget going into my final interviews pre-COVID, like a few months before, flew out to Boston, crushed the interview. But like when I was on the plane, there's still a part of me thinking I was like selling laptops at Dell, not like enterprise infrastructure. Like I had no idea what I was getting into. And a big part of me knew that, and probably because I was doing the Ironman and marathon and stuff like that, I was like, I don't need to know a lot about tech. Like I can just outwork people. And it worked because, you know, I won awards as an STR, got promoted to an AE, crushed my quota there. 9 months in, was an or a district manager of account executives, which was nuts at age 24. And then found myself in field sales at age 25. Honestly, a lot of it is like, I think to sign my next year of management, I had to like return back to the office and I was like, I will go for a competitive field sales interview and just figure it out. And I did. And I think a lot of my success hinged on the fact that I knew the ins and outs of Dell so well. I knew how to get 17 SDRs aligned to my accounts. I had an inside account executive, best guy ever. We'd funnel all those first meetings to. I would take everything over $250,000. He would take everything sub, divide and conquer, share quota. And life was good. And then I just got bored and I started a company. So that was my journey. But looking back, I feel like I really could have used someone like you to like make my best even better. But I'm curious, like, who is your ICP? Like, in an ideal world, you get to wave the wand and you're like, I want to work with this person. Can you describe that person for me?
Well, I have 3 programs that I run. I have a sales rep accelerator, I have a sales leader accelerator, and I have a sales org accelerator. So, sales org accelerator, so that's founders that are running tech companies that are between 1 and 10 million and they're trying to scale to 20, 30 million and beyond. Sales leader accelerators. So I have programs that are for like first time frontline leaders, as well as like frontline leaders that are trying to become second line or becoming executives themselves. And then I have my sales rep accelerator where pretty much working with primarily account executives, between 100 to 300K, and they're trying to unlock the next level for themselves, and many of them are targeting 500,000 and beyond. And that's like where they're at in their career. But the most important thing is they got to be hungry. So we have a pretty insane guarantee with our program because we're selective of who we work with. Our guarantee is if you don't see results, we'll give you double your money back. And to be clear, like this isn't some couple $100 course. Like this is an expensive investment. But we're very selective who we work with because number one, we have to know we can help you. But number two, like you have to really want it. And that's the type of people that I love to work with. I love people that just got a chip on the shoulder and just have got something to prove. Whether it's to, their boss who told them they weren't good enough, to their family, to themselves, whoever it is, like someone who really just is sick and tired of not being the best versions of themselves. And that could be someone that's already in, the top 10%. I got a client of mine, Tyler, who's an enterprise rep, was consistently in the top 10%. Last year working together, added another 400K to his income, right? To help him get to like number one. And now he's basically the flagship rep for his company. When I have other reps that, we're struggling, right? They start working, they might be on a PIP and they want to change their situation, right? And they, enough is enough. They may have had that moment that I had early in my career, right? But the thing is, they're all hungry for more. And that's the most important ingredient, as you called out before. Right? You're not going to do an Ironman if you're just not willing to grind and you're not hungry, you don't want it really bad, right? You need that. And those are the people that I love to work with, because I'm not in the business of working with people that aren't trying to be great, right? I'm just not. I'm not as crazy as it sounds. Of course, I run a business, and it's going to be hard for people to believe. I didn't get into this to make money. I got into this because I love helping people. Because there's a lot of things that I teach that you can't teach as a sales leader in corporate America. And I don't want to work with a client that doesn't want to be great, because guess what's going to happen if they don't want to be great? They're not going to do the work. And then 6 months later, or a couple of years later, they're going to run into a buddy like, hey, Jay, did you work with that guy, Justin? Did you guys, that software sales coach guy? Yeah, it wasn't for me, whatever. But that's straight bullshit, because, if you do what we tell you to do, the results are literally guaranteed. My average client increased their income between 50 to 100K, right? But you got to do it. You got to show up. And that's what I look for. People that, have gaps in a skill set that I know can solve. And people that actually want it and are going to show up.
What is your application process for that? Because that's, I believe the identity someone holds of themselves is like so important. To your point, like, do they have that hunger? Do they want to be great? Because if they don't even identify as that, like, they're not going to take the actions in accordance to what it would take to become that. But like, what does an application process look like for you to make sure you're really getting that ideal person to work with?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of answering some questions, and both, for us to understand the data and the situation, right? Because we want to look at the quantitative, the objective. Hey, can we help you, right? Can we physically help you based on your situation? And then there's hey, we're going to jump on a call and we're going to dig into your situation, right? And we're going to get a feel for you as a person, right? And that's where the secret sauce lies, because we do that live.
I like that. Yeah, I do a similar process where it's like I have to get on a call with someone to just read how they operate and how they can. I don't know, because I tell people that I'm really good at doing bathroom makeovers, but not like full home remodels. Like, that's not the business I got into. Like, I'm good at making someone who's oriented the right way, like just put them in an amazing vehicle and get them into the Googles of the world. Like, I can do that, but if someone comes in and like they can't even check their email on time and like do these basics, I'm like, I'm not for you. Go to like a low tier boot camp or something like that. Like, that's just not my persona. But another thing that I've realized, a few things, is one is I consider what we do a hybrid, but some people might consider like we're in the online space. We do stuff online. I actually think everyone has an online presence, but like the most powerful interactions are still in person. And for the online portion of running a company, I believe one thing that's made me so successful is authenticity and like really digging into the bold claims that I make. And so for you, one thing that really stood out to me is like your guarantee. It's like, hey, we'll pay back double if you don't hit whatever we're hitting. Like, what is the deliverable or outcome that you're promising people when they come in, if they get accepted?
Yeah. So what we look at as our measurable is income, 99% of the time. And we just take a look at the baseline. Where are you at? What are your goals? Where are you trying to get to? And that's what we measure against. And the results come from one of three areas. One, of course, increased commissions because you're just better at executing. Two, many times with my clients, they get promoted because they're executing better. So that comes with an increase in overall compensation. And then three, if there's a situation where I need to help someone navigate a difficult career situation, right, and help them negotiate, negotiate a better comp, or those are the types of things that play into it, because like I said, it's the three C's, right? It's making sure you're in the right situation as well as you have the right skills and the right mindset.
Okay, but is it like you'll get X amount more in your income in X time horizon, or like how is that
Yeah. By the end of the program,
structured?
if you don't get at least double your investment increase back. So my average client, just for context, gets between a 7 to 10x return on their investment within 12 months. And
Okay.
so we say, so that's why we're very confident that our at least 2x return on investment.
Okay. Yeah, we need to talk after this, and I need to pick your brain more because I just had like a case study of some guy raise his pay by like 100K, and I charge a good amount. Like I'm a premium, but I'm like maybe I should like charge more. Like we're getting pretty epic results, but no, that's cool, and you definitely have good marketing. You have a good system behind you. I'm curious for yourself, like, do you have either a mentor or a company that you look up to?
I do have companies that inspire me. I also have mentors and coaches that I invest in for my own development. To start with a company that inspires me in my field. In fact,
And you can't say deal. I know their investigation where they plan to
no,
spy
no, it's
inspires
not.
you a
I
lot.
promise it's not a deal. So in my
I'm kidding.
field, you may not be able to see it, but this is a picture on my screensaver of Jeremy Miner and his team accepting a $100 million award. So they crossed the $100 million revenue per year threshold. And it seems like they've just done it a lot of the right ways from what I've seen. So that's a company that's in the coaching space that is inspiring to me. To be the best, you learn from the best. So that's a company that definitely inspires me that I'm running at. They focus more on like insurance or like door to door sales. Where obviously I just focus on the technology side. But that's an organization that inspires me for sure. I have coaches and mentors, that I invest in, to help me round out, different skill sets that I have, because like I said, I'm always trying to raise my game. I have coaches, to help me on the, operations side of my business, the marketing side of the business, communication and everything in between. I think in the last year alone, I spent close to, I'd say just shy of 100K in my own personal development in some way, shape, or form. Because, like I said in the beginning, it's like no one's going to develop you as fast as you want to be developed. So, I got to be hungry, and I'm always trying to study people and get in the room with the people that have achieved what I'm trying to achieve. So, yeah, I have a few different coaches and programs I'm in right now.
I like that. And if you saw me multitasking, I had a meeting that I'm pushing 15 minutes because this is just there's just so much information I just want to absorb. But that's even a question that someone proposed to me, and it's a smart one, but it's like you always want to have an information filter. So if someone's coming to work with you, Justin, a good question for them to ask is, hey, like you're going to be my mentor, Justin, but who are your mentors? Like I think that's a frame of thinking is the high performers I know, they never stop learning and they're always hungry for knowledge and they still have mentors in their court. And on that topic, one thing that I've been really thinking about, and I have like my whiteboard here in notes, is I think people are really bad at having an information filter. I think a lot of people are willing to read whatever they see on LinkedIn. And like, I just think it's bananas. Like the stuff people post. And I believe the good thing about our space is like, you can validate credibility very quickly. Like for me, I get a lot of people who work with me because they just look at my LinkedIn, they listen to me talk on a podcast. They're like, okay, like I literally see no one who's advanced that quickly into so many different roles. And it's just a no brainer because there's no other service like it in the market. But with that, I've realized with the friends and people I surround myself with, like those are the most important people to get information from. And sometimes I fall into these bad habits of like maybe talking to people who haven't had the outcomes that I actually want, but I still take on their information. And so with that frame of thinking, like how does having an information filter play a role in your life?
If you haven't achieved what I'm trying to achieve, your insight and advice is null and void. It's very simple, right? And, doesn't mean people don't have great intentions, even if it's close friends or family. But, hey, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, doesn't mean I don't love you. But with all due respect, you haven't done what I'm trying to do, so I'm not going to take your advice. Right? And that's how I do it. It's really that simple.
Yeah, I think it is like a black and white situation. And even my background on my computer right now is just don't put emotion behind it. I think a lot of times when I think that binary, there's like this additional emotion that I put into it. And I realize when I'm able to take the emotion out of it, I'm able to make a better decision in what I should or should not do. But I guess for you, Justin, like where do you feel like most of your energy is focused for the rest of 2025?
Really, just we're going to market, with our programs. The Rep Accelerator, Leader Accelerator, and Org Accelerator. There's a lot of things we're doing on that front. And for me, I'm always trying to, of course, improve our product, improve our services, so that we can increase the level of impact that we can do. Because, I'm on a mission, to transform 100,000 lives in sales. And I say transform because there's a lot of people that I've helped over the years, but there's a lot of people, there's levels to how much you help somebody, right? Whether you give them a tip or a trick and they implement it, great. You run a better sales call, awesome. I'm happy for you, right? But my whole mission and the whole way I think about my programs that I offer, especially for individuals, is my goal, ironically enough, given, despite my guarantee, my goal, ironically enough, isn't to help you make more money in your quota. It's just not. The way I measure success for myself and the organization that I run and I'm growing, it's I want you to look back on this experience, working with me and my team and being in this community. I want you to look back 3 to 5 years from now and say my life is fundamentally better because of this experience. That's how I look at it. And that requires a significant amount of effort from myself and everyone on my team in order to deliver on that goal. And that's what we're going to do. But that's not just a 2025 thing. That's, until, this company is no longer in my hands or, until my last breath is done. That's what I'm going to do.
I love that. For you, I try to stay off of social media as much as I can, but every now and then I'll either see your post pop up on a timeline. And I feel like you give a lot of actionable advice where it's like, hey, like free post, take it, apply it. And I'm sure you have some other resources too, but what would you say like your most popular free resources someone could collect today if they just wanted to get a little feel of what you do?
Yeah, right now I have a guide for how to master a sales call that I recently came out with. It's a 41 page, like comprehensive guide. Like I put hundreds of hours into this thing. I jam this thing with value and it helps you do just that, like run better sales calls. And the reason why I say run better sales calls is because when people think about sales calls, they typically say, oh, I need to be better at discovery. Discovery is like 1/100th of what's required in order to master, in order to run effective sales meetings. Because your goal with a sales call is very simple. It's not qualifying. It's not discovery. It's not even closing. Your number one goal of a sales conversation is that your buyer leaves that conversation saying that was a good use of my time. That's the North Star that we're running at. So I put hundreds of hours into this document to make it as concise as possible. So if people want to reach out to me, on social, maybe we'll put a link in the comments or something when we post this live. That's a free guide for people to get got to check out. Tons of value. I want to structure in a way where there's not just high level strategy, but there's tactics, there's examples, there's scripts, so that you don't even need to talk to anyone else and you can implement it and see a massive impact.
I love that. Yeah, we'll get the link, get it into the comments after this. And just to kind of crank up the dial a little further, what would you say to all the information junkies out there who want to pick up a guide like this, absorb it once, and actually never use it? Because I've realized there's this massive inflection point of people who want knowledge and people who actually want to apply knowledge. So any advice for the people out there who are just reading all the posts but never actually taking action on this stuff?
If you read the first page and it doesn't blow you away, throw it out. That's how confident I am. This is going to deliver.
I'm excited. I'm always in the business of learning, so I selfishly will be reading that first page. Pretty low cost if you talk about the amount of value it can bring to all your selling going forward. But for you, Justin, you're doing quite a bit of social media, at least what I see. Where's the best place for people to keep up with you?
The platforms that I'm most active on is LinkedIn and Instagram, but I'm going to be investing much heavier into my YouTube content, more long form content, more stuff like this, more deeper dives into specific topics. But if people are looking to engage and like actually have a conversation with me, you just shoot me a DM on like LinkedIn or Instagram, and happy to chat.
Awesome. And I seriously think you should do more long forms like this. Like, you just have such an executive presence, and especially for a lot of people in our elite tech sales organization, the community that we've built, a lot of them are ascending up the ranks and they could really use help like this. And so I would encourage you to reach out to Justin. I think one thing we also share is I used to have a man bun. If you look at my LinkedIn photo, I used to have the long hair, and not extremely popular in tech sales, but I do think there's some validity to guys with man buns do very well. So for whatever that reason is, reach out to Justin on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'll make sure we link those. But any final words you have, Justin? I have quite a few people who are on our newsletter, LinkedIn, and I know you have a massive following as well. But any final words you'd want to say?
I'll just leave you with a parting thought that I planted a seed on earlier, but I just want to close the loop. Know that you are going to die. Everyone you know is going to die. And there's going to be people that don't show up to your funeral because something came up. My advice to every single one of you is go for broke. Whatever that means to you, just burn it down and leave with the gas tank empty. That's my final advice.
Gosh, that is awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Justin. We'll get this live very shortly and hopefully have you back on. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, I had a blast. I mean, I appreciate having me on, of course. Happy to chat again and go deeper on some other stuff.
Heck yeah. All right, talk to you soon.